Good evening. Welcome to another installment of Political Election 2020. We have a very special edition fact check episode for you again, the second installment of this. What's up? It's your boy Yine here, as always, joined by Connor Allen. Say hello, Connor.
Hello, everybody.
And today we're going to be fact checking Biden's CNN town hall appearance just yesterday. The first real time that he has faced any level of scrutiny, I would say, since he took the nomination for the Democratic Party. Of course, he was sat in the basement for months doing softball interviews. This is probably the first time he's really been out there and taken some, I wouldn't say tough questions, but taken some questions, shall we say. I don't know if he knew the questions beforehand, but either way, there were a few questions in there at least where he had to face a little bit of scrutiny. Before we crack on and go into that one, no, please, anyone that's enjoying this video or enjoys our videos, please take a moment to subscribe, comment down below, like the video. The best thing you can do, if you want to share this with your friends or family, whoever, you want to keep them informed, you want to make sure that they know the truth, share this fact check on the Joe Biden CNN appearance and let them know exactly what's going on. So, first thing, it's an oldie, but it's a goldie. Well, it's an oldie where Joe Biden comes from. He's once again made the claim that he is the first in his family to go to college.
I'm not joking. Like, guys like me were the first in my family to go to college. I'm not joking. Like, guys.
For the more knowledgeable, perhaps older viewers, you would know that Biden made this claim in 1987, the first campaign he did, the first run he did for the president in 1987. He plagiarized Neil Kinnock, a famous, very quite left-wing politician here in the UK for the Labour Party. He plagiarized one of his speeches, Neil Kinnock saying that he himself was the first in his family to go to college. Biden plagiarized that. He had to later on admit that people had gone to college on his mother's side. So, Connor, what do you think of that?
Well, it's just struck me that this took place before either of us were born, which destroys my mind, first of all. But Neil Kinnock, he was known for these he was always a bit liberal with the truth. He always tried to bend things. He always tried to appear more working class than he was. He always tried to appear to this, socialist ideal. And Biden tried to do the same back in the 80s. And he's repeating the tactic today. He wants to come across as a man of the people, and he just isn't, is he? He's not really doing a successful job.
No, exactly, yeah. Obviously, he saw something appealing in Neil Kinnock back then. I think, though, this kind of shows, again, does Biden actually know what year it is? Does he know what's going on? Has he forgotten that he's already been called out on this one before? Does he care? I don't know, because why is he repeating a claim that he made 33 years ago again that was already called out for? And this what he did here with Neil Kinnock with the plagiarizing his speech. This is basically the thing that ended his last run for president. This tanked him in the polls. So it's not like it should be, if there's one thing he should not be repeating, it's the thing that tanked him in his first ever run for president. Obviously, this is his 86th run for president at this point now.
And the thing is, Slow Joe, bless his heart, it's all the same to him at this point, isn't it? 30 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 months ago, 3 days ago, it's all the same to him.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the first one. Moving on, the second point. I'll play the video.
All that Trump can see from Park Avenue is Wall Street. All he thinks about is the stock market and telling him, we're going to do all right. Everybody owns stock. How many of you all own stock in Scranton? Now, my neighborhood in Scranton, not a whole lot of people own stock. And so we have to make sure that healthcare workers are paid and paid a decent wage.
So, I have here right in front of me a poll conducted quite recently, as recently as April this year, asking American people, do you have any investment in stock? in the stock market right now, 55% of them said yes. So if the audience were given a chance to actually respond to that one, I imagine quite a few of them would have put their hand up and said yes.
Absolutely. And do you think is Joe Biden been willingly wrong? Is he willingly telling a lie? Or do you think he's just not aware of the facts? Because he's not a business savvy man, is he? Oh, in fact, no, that's not true, because Biden himself owns stocks, him and his wife.
Yeah.
They both benefit from the big stock market. But do you think he's actually aware of like what reality is like for normal American people? The normal American actually owns stocks?
Well, I don't know. I imagine he's probably thinking, of course, the big Great Depression and stock market crash, of last year in his mind was only recently. He imagines there's probably most people don't have that much stock anymore. Obviously,
this Franklin Delano Roosevelt guy, he's got some good ideas.
Yeah, exactly. This New Deal. That's what when he's going on about this New Deal, that's what he's talking about. But yeah, of course, Biden's stock is only in, General Motors. Of course, the Model T Ford has just come out, and he owns one and has one in his home. So yeah, I think what it shows more than anything is a president that's actually completely out of touch with the American public, has no idea that actually quite a considerable amount of people have money in savings, whether it's like 401ks or invest in the stock market, maybe through like other pension funds or whatever it is. So he doesn't himself realize, in his mind, everyone's just this poor person that has to vote Democrat.
In fairness to him, judging from the town hall, okay, you have to actually go out and speak to Americans to discover this, right? If you're judging from the town hall, then you've just got a team around Biden who ship in these people who ask loaded questions, and they all have the same rough profile, and they all have these sob stories and everything. So I don't actually blame Joe for that one. He's surrounded by people who are trying to put him in the best light.
Okay, well, I mean, I do, but let's move on then to the next one. He's poorly advised, shall we say, then, at the very least. So obviously, one of the big things when it comes to Trump's campaign is manufacturing jobs. He obviously brought a lot of jobs back to America, and in particular in the Rust Belt. That was one of the appeals. That's essentially what won him the election, was carrying all of those states up in the Rust Belt. Pennsylvania, obviously, big fracking industry in Pennsylvania. Here's what Joe Biden said when he was asked about whether or not... Oh, no, sorry, this is about plugging methane wells, but still kind of similar, about manufacturing jobs in Pennsylvania.
In addition to that, we can provide for right now, as you know, there are thousands of uncapped wells because a lot of companies gone out of business, whether they're gas or oil facilities. We can put to work right away 250,000 people from the iron workers and other disciplines, making union wages, capping those wells that are leaking methane and are a danger to the community. And so not only do I continue to support it, jobs, it's important for this community. It's important for Pennsylvania and Ohio and other states. It's an important business, and it's a lot of wages are involved in that. But beyond that, we can also get people working now, capping the wells that are left uncapped right now across this region and all the way. There's hundreds of thousands of them all across the nation, and that put a lot of people to work. In addition.
Okay, so his claim there, 250,000 people can be put to work capping methane wells. This is a study from Columbia, a university in Columbia, where they basically did a study. They said, tried to determine how many jobs could we create from capping the methane wells, and their assessment indicated that of the 56,000 or 56,000-ish wells, that could create roughly 13,500 jobs for 1 year, just for 1 year. And of course, this is in Pennsylvania he's talking about specifically, and of that there would only be 11,000 jobs, just 11,000 jobs, just in Pennsylvania. So a bit of a far cry from the 250,000, 250,000 figure that he talked about, right?
Absolutely. And if you look in the table there, it's quite interesting because you see the average cost of creating each one of those jobs. It's around 100,000 and 200,000, right? So is he talking about putting state money into this? Is he talking about using state funds to create these jobs? 250,000 jobs in his, warped mind, in which these don't matter. 250,000 times 100,000, that's a hell of a lot of money. And that's American taxpayers who are going to be funding these jobs. It just doesn't add up, does it?
No, exactly. And why fund America? I mean, listen, it might be that, this is an important thing, I imagine, obviously, with the methane creeping into the atmosphere. There's concern for global warming and greenhouse gases and this sort of thing. But obviously, what Trump's done is he's brought more jobs back to America, organic jobs via the market, jobs that people are just making money from within the private industry. What Biden's essentially talking about here, like you say, is just spending taxpayer money to pay wages for people to cap methane wells. So
these jobs don't stick around.
Yeah,
without competition, if it's a state-created job, it lasts just about as long as the state's willing to put money into it because it's stable. It exists because of the state. It doesn't exist because it's profitable. It exists because of the state.
Exactly. This is just a drop in the ocean, really, because
it's a false way of creating jobs.
It's just 1 year, 13,500 jobs, which is great, for those people that can do, for those 13,500 people, or 11,000 in Pennsylvania. But these people are after a bit of stability in their life. They want to know, is there going to be a career for them if they're skilled in manufacturing, if they have some kind of skill profession in manufacturing, whatever it is. They want to know, is there going to be a positive outlook for me and my career for the future? Will I still be able to provide for my family for 10 years time doing this job, or 20 years time? I would think that when they look at Biden and what he's saying, and then when they look at Trump's record, they're probably going to be more inclined to believe that Trump is going to be able to do more for them than Biden will. Yeah.
So, and listen, I'm no scientist, okay? But when you're talking about families and jobs, I'm fairly certain that these huge methane wells that need plugging aren't conveniently located within commuter distance of a large city, right? They're out in the middle of nowhere, former mines and such, very poor road links. You probably have to commute for 3 or 4 hours or live in a minor city in order to do that job.
Yeah.
Okay? That's not a good atmosphere for a family. That's not a good atmosphere for anyone who wants to grow their lives.
No, exactly. And I just find that's why it's quite insulting as well. Biden keeps doing all of these like little press events inside, car factories or whatever and all this kind of thing. And he's trying to create this, kind of narrative, this illusion that he's like this big pro manufacturer. And it's like, well, you were in the administration, you were vice president for 8 years. And you've got such a poor record on this that all of these states, many of them went Republican for the first time in decades because they'd felt so let down by your administration. Why would anybody believe that he's suddenly going to do something about it now? I don't think they will. I really don't think this argument is going to work with people. I think they'll see right through it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's the same logic as Lenin doing all his speeches surrounded by people in big crowds. Okay, he didn't give a toss about those people, but everything's a big press event to Joe Biden. Everything's a photo opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. He's just a populist at this point. So moving on again, talking about the jobs, fracking, obviously, big part. Well, a major industry along the Rust Belt, Philadelphia in particular. And he was questioned on this by this gentleman here.
With the abundance of natural gas in northeast Pennsylvania, do you support the continuation of fracking, safely and with proper guidelines, of course, and growing the industry to aid additional jobs to our region?
Yes, I do. I do.
With the abundance of...
So this is one of those issues from Biden where he's kind of flip-flopped on it quite a lot. He's kind of having to walk this line between the progressives on the left-hand side of the party who are so concerned about global warming and consider fracking dangerous to the environment, and obviously needing to win back votes from those in the Rust Belt. And this explains why this is one of those issues that he seems to flip-flop on depending on who it is that he's actually talking to. Of course, during the primaries, he came out as someone who was, quite dogmatically against fracking.
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated and no more subsidies for either one of those, any fossil fuel.
And his one, I think it was just him and Bernie
Number one,
Sanders.
no more subsidies for fossil fuel industry. No more drilling on federal lands. No more drilling, including offshore. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period.
There we go. So he says he'd ban any more fracking sites opening up on federal property, and he intends to get rid of fossil fuels in his administration.
Absolutely. And it's just a sign of a weak leader, isn't it? Because if you are an environmentalist, you always have to deal with this twin issue. You're going to lose jobs when you get rid of these fossil fuel industries. And a true environmentalist leader comes in and he provides an alternative to these people. Increased investment, increased retraining. They're going to provide jobs in some other way, right? He's not doing that. All he's doing is, as you said before, he's telling people what they want to hear. He's not showing any long-term vision. He's not showing any long-term plan. If I was an American voter, I wouldn't be any wiser for what he's actually going to do, because eventually he's going to have to take a decision if he becomes president. Who's he going to come down on? Would he deprive 100,000 people of their jobs, or will he appease environmentalists and progressives?
Yeah, I think anyone whose livelihood is at stake here, living in one of these Rust Belt states and perhaps works in the fracking industry, I would imagine that they're going to assume that Biden would side with the environmentalists, because we know that they do have or are starting to creep up and maintain a stranglehold or develop a stranglehold over the Democratic Party. Now, they've swayed them on a lot of issues. Of course, Biden's come out with this big Green New Deal that he's been in support of trillions of dollars of taxpayers' money into green energies. And these are all policies that you would consider, part of the sort of far left side of thing, the progressives in the left. So if you're someone that's living in one of those areas, you're probably not overly enthusiastic that Biden is going to stand up for you when push comes to shove on this issue.
I wouldn't say environmentalism is necessarily a left-wing cause, but you are right. I just think very clearly polarized between the two candidates, right?
I was talking more specifically about sort of extensive investment from the public sector on green energies. I consider that to be quite a progressive leftist policy, to be spending £2 or £3 trillion of taxpayers' money on green energies.
Absolutely, yeah, I get that point, right? But the way the wind's blowing, if you are one of those fossil fuel workers in Pennsylvania, you could kind of sense it. Your job's it doesn't exactly have good long-term prospects, right? So what they need, as I said before, is a leader who's willing to give them an alternative and a path forward. Biden's not offering that. Trump might. Trump's saying he's going to retain those jobs until a better is found, until the market can find a better job, until the market innovates new roles for these people. Biden's just flip-flopping.
Yeah,
telling people what they want to hear.
The point is, Trump is not, or says he won't, and I think his record speaks for itself. And in the last 4 years or 3.5 years of administration, he says he's not going to abandon these people. And like you say, if a better alternative, a way in which these people who are obviously skilled in this industry can be retrained, or if their labour can be redirected towards other cause, then he'll obviously do something to try and support that. That's the impression you get. The point is that people feel as though their livelihood is in safer hands with Trump as president than they do as Biden president. That's the impression that I get with this one, because he has failed to be clear on what his policy is when it comes to this.
Absolutely.
Coronavirus, obviously, probably the biggest concern now. At least that's what the polls suggest anyway. Coronavirus is the biggest concern for people in the US right now. Biden likes to, I think, try and rewrite history. make it seem like he was ahead of the curve on this one, and that he was calling out, the dangers of the coronavirus way back in March or February or whatever, when a lot of people were obviously downplaying how dangerous it was going to be. I even remember I think it might even been CNN saying that it's quite similar to just like the seasonal flu. So here's the claim he made in the town hall debate on coronavirus.
What has he done? Imagine, and by the way, Columbia University Medical School pointed out, if he had just acted 1 week earlier, he would have saved 37,000 lives. All the way back, and I was on one of your shows, all the way back in March, I was calling for the need for us to have masks, have the president stand and tell us what's going on. But he knew it. He knew it and did nothing. It's close to criminal.
So Biden is saying that back in March of this year, he was concerned about what was happening in the coronavirus. He felt that everyone should be wearing masks, should be, he didn't say socially distancing, specifically there, but, basically those kind of guidelines that things should be done to try and prevent the spread of it. Why is it then that he was holding holding rallies in March? He had a rally in Philly to celebrate in Michigan, to celebrate the Michigan primary win. Yeah. And obviously you can see there in the crowd, whole lot of people, no masks, no social distancing as far as I can see. And then he had a rally in Detroit as well. And this one's the 10th of March, and this one was on the 11th of March. So I think this is something that's quite indicative of the Biden campaign, which is to try and rewrite history. And he thinks that if you can just say this so many times, that people are just going to start believing it, right?
Absolutely. And I'm pretty certain if you go to the local BLM protest or riot or whatever you want to call it, people, some of them wearing masks, but it's for a completely different purpose. But they're not socially distanced, are they? And Biden's been backing that since day one. So his record is utterly plain for all to see. Not very good.
Yeah, he's trying to weaponize the virus, turn it into a stick to beat Trump with, because this is the best thing that he's got right now. The Democrats are probably just cannot believe their luck that we've had a generational, once in a generation pandemic, probably more than once in a generation pandemic happening, so that they can just sit back in their armchair and criticize Trump all day long on this, when actually probably the more observant voter can look back to what was happening in February and March and see the Democrats holding rallies themselves, not doing social distancing, not wearing masks. And of course, some of them encouraging Nancy Pelosi, encouraging people to come down to Chinatown when Trump imposed a ban on Chinese nationals coming into America to try and stem the spread of coronavirus into the US. So,
say nothing of her trips to the salon. Well, of course, she was maskless.
Yeah, exactly. So, again, the Democrats just eager to rewrite history on this one. And then, final point, second to final point. Oh, no, it is the final point. Biden, they always love to use this one, always love to go on about Trump, try and make him out to be some kind of racist, say that he's in bed with white supremacists or the KKK if they're really feeling confident. And Biden, again, apparently just has no concern for reality and just wants to be able to state what he wants as if it's truth.
I've condemned every form of violence, no matter what the source is. No matter what the source is. The president has yet to condemn, as you've probably noticed, the far right and the white supremacists and those guys walking around with the AK-47s and not doing a damn thing about them.
Well, I'll let the president argue for himself on this one.
Now we're going to take down his statue. So you know what? It's fine. You're changing history, you're changing culture, and you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other.
So are you prepared right now to make a clear and unequivocal statement renouncing the support of all white supremacists?
Of course I am. Of course I am. I mean, there's nobody that's done so much for equality as I have.
So there's the president. And those are just two examples of him condemning white supremacists or neo-Nazis or whatever, anyone in that group. Yet the Democrats want to continue to try and play this card, try and make Trump look as if he's some kind of sympathizer towards neo-Nazis.
Absolutely. And it's not just Trump, by the way. This is their tactic they've done over and over again. If you disagree with them, if they don't like you, you're a racist. End of story. I'm pretty certain that every single person listening has had some experience of this, whether it's to them or another person they know. I'm pretty certain you have an experience like this, because I certainly have. So it's not just President Trump with this. It's just the oldest left-wing tactic to man.
Yeah, certainly. And like you say, it hasn't something that's just come with Trump, but it's something that's become more prevalent with Trump. And basically has been, well, apart from Russia is the thing that they want to try and criticize him on, while conveniently ignoring all of the times that he's called out white supremacy or called out neo-Nazis or whatever it is. Why is it that people in America can't be concerned about immigration or illegal immigration at that without being called a racist? And obviously we know from our own experience, from people that obviously we've spoken to, this is a feeling that exists through large quantities of not just the American populace, but in Europe as well. People feel as though they're not allowed to speak out about the things and their real concerns because they're afraid of just being labelled, whether it's a rapist, a racist, or an Islamophobe or whatever it is, right? There's just so many, they think that you can just label you, put you in this little box, and then that's it. You don't have to actually refute any of their arguments when it comes to things like immigration or anything like that.
Absolutely.
So that has been our fact check video on the Biden CNN town hall drive-through questionnaire. Of course, we've got 2 weeks now until the debates, which will be probably Biden's first and then probably going to be his only real test that he faces during the campaign trail. Of course, something like this, the CNN town hall that he faced today, would probably be one of the easier events that someone would normally do in a campaign to become the president. But in Biden's case, because he's so hiding away from scrutiny and he's afraid to go and take questions from people who don't have a positive view of him, like CNN. This has been one of the easier events for him, and still he managed to fail quite spectacularly.